How did you first meet Peter Buck?
He was our only fan. For him and this Valina, who runs the 40 Watt now and is married to David Lowry, and my friend Brian Crane and probably 8 other people. They were our main audience for the first 3 or 4 times we ever played Athens. Because Atlanta and Athens were not compatible. Like, Athens band could come to Atlanta and sell out the 40 Watt. Like Dream So Real, Kill Kitty Cats, there was all these 80s bands that were huge in Atlanta. But Atlanta was more known for being like more of a rock, kind of heavier kind of thing. It did not translate the other way. So we had a hard time getting started in Athens. And Peter Buck was just always like, always an audience. Like, there's Peter Buck from REM. And just like, yeah, good show. And then he would leave. And eventually we started like, come to the house after the show. And then we kind of, bonded over. I don't read anywhere near as much as I used to. But back then I was reading a lot, and of course the Kerouac thing, and all that Ginsberg-y, all the surrounding stuff that I was really getting to know as a 24-year-old, 26-year-old. And Peter, of course, had all those books, and Peter is probably, between Peter Buck and Chris Robinson, probably the 2 most well-read people that I've ever met. Like daily reading, daily. Like constantly reading, like has probably know more about authors and all that, So I just kind of, I was a huge REM fan.
Too.
Because I would, when I worked construction, I bought this cassette for Reckoning, and it was like I listened to Violent Femmes and Reckoning, and the Dylan, Times Are Changing cassette, and Bring It All Back Home cassette were probably the 4 cassettes I listened to. I worked construction, so I had to leave in the dark every day. Because if you got to the work site when the sun was up, you were late. It was one of those heavy industrial construction things. I was a form carpenter. And so I really loved, and I wasn't going to be in a band. I just really loved this Reckoning record. I didn't know anything about this REM thing, and I went and saw them at the Fox, and it was like there was like fraternity guys, and I was like, what are these people? Like, they're an odd collection of fans. Like, they're like dressed in khakis, and they're drunk. You know what I mean? Like, coming from the Midwest, like people go to, I don't know. You didn't see a lot of. I didn't know what a frat was until I started a band. Like, I never.
That's not the crowd that would have come to see them in Indianapolis. It would have been way different.
But in Atlanta, they were like an enigma. Like, they were like because of course, if you started a band in 1980, fraternities were your best payday. That's where you made like $1,000. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Don't tell the drummer.
How many carpentry things I got to do to make $1,000?
Yeah, is it 1985? Yeah. So
when you started seeing them live regularly, where were they in their career? Like when they're at the Fox Theater? Right?
Well, that was I think that was their first song, or early was one of my favorites, "Feeling Gravity's Pull." So it must have been Fables of Reconstruction. Would have been the first time I ever saw them. So I missed out on the early years. And our first drummer, Paul Lenz, toured with them as their light guy, like in the years where they're driving in the van. So I'd heard stories and how cool they were, and how hard they were, and how they just practiced a lot, and how and even to this day they set an unapproachable bar to me. They're just so civil and kind, and I don't know. They're everything around them just works. Like my wife Anna was saying the other day, she'd been talking with their office for this project she's doing. She's like, wow, those people are just so kind. And, and in this project she's doing, she's talked like 100 different bands. And, it's just, she's getting to kind of know managers and what they are and all the people who work with band. And REM has always been, for being like one of the biggest bands in the world, they're just always very kind and very gracious. And
I've heard that same
really,
thing from a couple dozen people.
Yeah, they just, and I have a great story for you. This is a cool. Warner Hodges is playing with us. We're as we've gone, we're rotating guitar players always. We're down to just me again. I'm hoping. I think Lauer will if I will come back maybe. I hope. But he's out with Sturgill right now. But so we have Warner Hodges touring with us, which I'd love to get Warner to come sit with us whenever he wants. But his amp breaks. We're in Athens. We're his amp breaks. So he calls the REM Peter. He calls the REM office. He texts. He asked me for Peter's number or whatever, and so he's like, "Can I borrow an amp from the REM practice room?" My amp blew up. And so it's really kind of, or it was DeWitt Burton. DeWitt Burton wrote everybody. And so everybody in the band, way after their past broken up, he sends that out and like to the whole band, like, would you mind if Warner borrowed an amp? He sent it to Michael and everybody. And so they're all like, oh, cool, yes, absolutely. Tell Warner we say hi. And I was like, really? My band would never do that. My band would be like, yeah, we're going to sell, Kevin's publishing. I don't tell him. Yeah, we sold your publishing. I thought, really? Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I mean, they probably wouldn't, but I don't know. I don't know. Just any band, the communication with them has always been really great. So, they've been a kind of a blueprint for, and I can't really even. I'm 64, so I'm running out of time. So, but if you're starting a band tomorrow, just do it the right way. Just dig the high road. Every chance you get, take the high road. Yeah. Just always take the high road.
And you'll be playing the same places, and interacting with the same people for a very long time. And it's better if they're your friends. You'll all enjoy it a lot more, and you'll all take care of each other a lot more.
Yeah. And go support your other musicians too. Like I always try to make sure I go support. Like what Yeah. Go see other bands.
Before I forget about it, did Peter say anything about when he was producing the Uncle Tupelo record?
I think he did that right after McDougal Blues or right before McDougal Blues.
It was right around the same time.
It was at John Keene's. And it's called Athens, isn't it? Is it called Athens?
It was March 16th through 20th or something.
Is it 1989 or 90?
I can't remember.
I think we made McDougal at 89 because I think it came out, or 88. It came out in the 80. I think we made it in 88. I can't remember. No, he never mentioned the Uncle Tupelo thing to me. All right. I was a huge Uncle Tupelo fan. I was actually in their fan club.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Wrote him a letter. I was in their fan club.
Were you around those guys at all?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I was a fan. I was in the audience. I would watch them. Yeah. I mean, we never really. We did one show together, which was a disaster. Well, it wasn't a disaster, but it was. I'll tell your family and friends. This is a funny thing.
It's just between us.
There's this little festival. We went. We used to play the Continental in Austin a lot. We played Austin every tour, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, whatever, all those years. And we would always go, and a few of those years, the guy, our friend from True Believers, Alejandro, was working at Waterloo Records at least once or twice of those things. I think we used to go. I remember him being there at Waterloo Records, and I remember, and they were doing this new festival there called the South by Southwest. And I was like, this is going nowhere. So it was at this place called Liberty Lunch, and it might have been a couple other venues. So this is a funny story. Well, not. I mean, it's funny to me. Something happened with the lighting rig at Liberty Lunch. Okay, so there was no light. Like the lighting rig wasn't working or something, right? An hour or so before we played. So one of my favorite bands and one of my mentor, I guess they mentored me kind of. Dick Kreutzen was this band, hardcore band from Milwaukee, and we did hundreds of shows together in the 80s, in the 80, 81, 80, whatever. And so I knew they were doing like a hardcore fest across the river. There's like I don't remember what was over there, a little convention center, doing like a hardcore thing, and they played earlier, and they always brought their floor lights. You know, that was their thing. Was like, we don't want any of your lights, and they just had floor lights. They looked like The Cure, like they were like really. They're just, I can't describe how cool Dick Kreutzen was. And the Crosses. There's a band called The Crosses now with Danny. The singer does some of the songs. But so I went over there. I was like, we have no lights. Could you lend us some of your lights? Or it was before they played. Yeah, but we got to get them back. So they came with us, and we're like, "Can you bring us?" So we had like 5 or 6 par cans. I think it was actually par cans. Like now, Driver Crime still does that, but we use like clamp lights, you know. And so we borrowed their lights, and then when we were done, they had to take their lights. So we do our show, and then the next band is Uncle Tupelo, and they're like, to this day, I don't know why, but I think DeWitt Byrd told me, he's like, those guys think you fucked them. I said, what do you mean? He said, they wouldn't let you use the lights. I said, we didn't have lights. I had to go across the river and borrow some lights from Dick Kreutzen, but then they needed them back. So and to this day, I don't know if it is to this day. You can ask them. I mean, Jeff Tweedy's always been very kind to me. I don't know Jay Farrar very well, but I mean, I know DeWitt worked for Jay, so maybe that's where. But anyway, there's like a thing where like Driver Cried fucked Uncle Tupelo.
I've never heard
from having no lights. And I was like, well, we didn't say you can't have the lights. I mean, why? What kind of power would I have?
Is this just a behind the scenes rumor? Or is there something in message board?
I think it's a behind the scenes rumor. I might have made it into something. I don't. Maybe one of their roadies could call and respond.
Is this the night the split between Jay and Jeff began?
No, I don't think so.
Did you break up Uncle Tupelo?
No, I did not break up Uncle Tupelo. But last time no, you can leave it. Last time I saw them though was in like, but they just have that like, they're great. I think they were just such a great band. First time I ever saw them was at the Antenna Club we were making Fly Me Courageous, and Buren went and saw them, I think, at the Antenna Club, I think. But yeah, they're just, yeah. But they have that Midwestern thing that I kind of rose above and got out of, because like being in the South, like people communicate better and they're complimentary. Like Charlie Storr, you know, he's like very like, great show, Charlie. Oh, thank you very much.
Charlie's a beautiful cat, man.
Oh my God, yeah, he's a beautiful guy.
Us Midwesterners, though, we're very, very nice, but we keep to ourselves and are quiet.
We keep to ourselves, but we're also very self-deprecating. Like, that was a great show. You're like, that sucked. That's how Uncle Tupelo was. It was like, that's a great show. It sucked. Ugh. I was like, and then Christ used to be the same way. Or like, it's a very Midwestern thing to be like, not be able to accept a compliment.
People watching this right now who have met me say they enjoy the show.
Right.
I like watching your show, Otis. I say, I hope it didn't ruin your life.
Right.
I can't just take the compliment.
Right. I can't give you those 2 hours back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Right. That's how we are in the Midwest.
Hope it didn't lower your property value.
Right. Exactly. Right. And then you meet Southerners who are like, oh, thank you so much.
Exactly. Well, were there a lot of people at the Uncle Tupelo show back then, or was it sparse? Or
the Antenna Club was sparse. I think probably 50 people. But then I never saw them with less than, packed. I never really.
But like Smith's.
Well, I mean, I think it was probably half full in Charleston, but it was that place that held like 1,000 people. As I know, I've been there. Like that's why I like to play. My ultimate goal in playing music is to play. Like Colonel Bruce Hampton would tell me, 500 is the max. Like at 500 people, people are in the band. They're in the club. They're in the band. Like, and I know that. I mean, when I saw Jack White at the 40 Watt a couple months ago, it was like I goosebumps talking about. It was amazing. You were in the band. You were in the room. You're in the room. You're in the band. After that, you're like, there's 500 people watching the 500 people. Then after that, unless you're like really great at it, like Springsteen, Michael Stipe, Bono, unless you're like can bring that into the 500 people, that's a skill. That's like Pope shit, That's like Dalai Lama shit. Unless you can do that, I just would rather only play to 500 people. Because I really, like, if I walk out, I think we did a show here a couple of years ago in Atlanta. It was like free outdoors, but there's like, 8,000 people out there. And I was just dreading leaving the dressing room. Like, I don't want to do this. This is not what I want to do. What do I do? Like, hey, Atlanta, or that's not my scene, man. I don't, I like to be in the club and feel the energy and be able to look somebody in the eye, and people that can do that it's great, but I'm not one of them.
When you said Michael Stipe, I think there's something inspirational about him that no one ever talks about, and I think they ought to. But like Michael Stipe was like the mumble guy who was shy and all of that, and somewhere around Life's Rich Pageant, he started singing out more, and he became this front man that you're talking about as it went on, but he wasn't that early. And that should be inspirational to people that are afraid to be on stage and stuff like that.
Right.
But I don't think I hear people talking about that.
He is, one of the kindest people I know. He's always very, my favorite Michael Stipe anecdote is like even a couple weeks ago, I was in Athens for a couple shows, and I went and saw this band, and I was sitting by myself, and then I got tapped on the shoulder. Oh no, I didn't. He didn't tap me on the shoulder. He came around because he's like, I don't like people tapping me. So he came around in front of me and goes, hey, Kevin, it's Michael. Like he's always gracious enough to not assume that I know who he is. Yeah. I just love that. He's a very kind, beautiful person, and he really turned that into, and I did notice that, and when we did start getting bigger for a little while, I did try to embrace that, but I just wasn't good at it. I don't feel like I was good at it. Well, I think I was on that tour where they went to arenas. I don't know I think that the Green Tour was really a huge record.
That's the one that really blew them up.
And we were opening for them on the East Coast, and they had the film project. They had like Jim McKay, who's like directed Treme, and they have like real people running the film. It's actually a film, 16 millimeter films, if not bigger. I don't know. Like there's actually projecting on these things, and it was. I think he rose to the occasion and like was inspired by the pop art of it and embraced the pop art of it. And that's, I'm just talking from what somebody walking from the sidelines, but I think he could have either cowered and become insular, but I think his natural instinct might've been that, but I think he kind of pushed through it, that's inspiring to me. Is like, go ahead and push. Yeah, I mean, watching the journey of all these people, watching the journey of all these musicians, as they move through their phases is part of one of the things I love to watch. Like I said, watching Jack White from the first time I saw them at like the Mercury Lounge or whatever, and it was just like whatever, and then that phenomena, and then And then now there's like people like singing his stuff at like soccer games in Brazil or but then watching him do what he's doing now and embracing that and being like really inspiring to me to see how people.
Jack White, there's people in Nashville that I know that would be like young folks that play in garages, or like house parties, rock bands that are doing fun stuff or whatever that Jack White would hear about and like, hey, let's do a 7-inch.
Right.
And bring them in and record them. And he's done that a lot, which is really cool. To have the facility to do that and actually follow through and like, yeah, let's do that. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think David Barbie's doing a similar thing in Athens now. It's like, I think you can go, you have to use 2-inch tape. You get like 10 minutes. You can do kind of like, and you can do, I think he's like, leave it, yeah. It's having fun with, I love that idea. 'Cause I always wanted to go. I wanted to have this record. Had this record company in my. Driver Crime made one record on. Is it now? I want it to be Now Records. One of our EPs is like Now. So I wanted to like go see a band and then like say like, do you want to come? Can you after the show's over? Can you come over to the studio and record that song? And then we'll put it on a 45 like tomorrow. That because that was a great song. Right now, you're nailing that song. Yeah. Like, and can we just all go with? Because if you know music history, it's like I think the Trogs did that for a Wild Thing. I think they like did a gig, and then the Kinks studio was open like after 11 or something, and they went in and did Wild Thing, and then like 3 hours later they left. But that's what you have. I thought that's so awesome.